Hey, young married group leaders, campus pastors, we're getting ready for the September Young Marrieds groups. You should be having them this weekend. And listen, I wanted to talk to you about two big things before you jump into it. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to already preview the material and check out what we're going to be talking about this week, but I wanted to hit two of them. The first is boundaries with your family of origin, especially as we're getting ready for the holiday season. We put this in strategically so that we could talk about boundaries for our young marrieds as they're probably, for some of them, approaching their first holiday season. Listen, I know many of you have been married for a long time, and boundaries are probably just something that you've established in your marriage. It's just part of your normal rhythm. But I want to take you back for a second. Do you remember your first holiday season as a married couple? Trying to figure out like, hey, how do we do Christmas? Do we stay at our house? Do we go to one of the in-laws' house? Do we go to my parents' house? Like, how's this working? We got to spend the night somewhere. And then, talk about the other holidays. Or if we spend Thanksgiving at one house, do we have to spend Easter at another house? And how do we work through all of this? And I know that, man, it feels like there's never a perfect solution to this. It doesn't matter how long you've been married. It always feels like somebody feels a little bit left out. But listen, then you have kids and you throw a new wrench into it. And then it's like, how do we do this as a family? How do we establish these boundaries? And I think the key is that we have to talk about them. We've got to talk about what our expectations are. We have to talk about how we're going to approach each of these events and how we're going to establish our own rhythms and our own healthy expression and celebration of the holidays as our new family unit. Listen, the other thing that we're going to be talking about, I think, is just so important, is we're going to be talking about boundaries with the opposite sex. Listen, I got really strong opinions on boundaries with the opposite sex. My really strongly held opinions are pretty traditional. I think that a healthy marriage, especially when it comes to who we're spending time with and who we're talking to, centers around two big things. The first one is open communication. We need to have open communication with our spouse about who we're spending time with, about how we're spending time with them, and about what we're doing together. Man, for me, my marriage, my wife, like, she has access to all of my stuff. She's got my password to my phone. She's got access to my Instagram and Facebook. And honestly, I love it. I love that she has access to those things because it drives the second thing, which is accountability. Man, we have to be accountable in these relationships. There was some amazing advice that was given in the podcast on relationships with the opposite sex that's just so wise. I mean, things like don't be alone together. Things like make sure that your spouse knows who you're spending time with. Like for me and my wife, if I'm going to text another woman, either my wife is going to be included on that text or the other person's husband is going to be included on that text. Because I think that accountability is so important. Man, I sit with a lot of couples that have experienced substantial failures in their marriage, and a lot of them could have been averted with just communication. Communication and accountability go a long, long way. So listen, I am praying first for your marriages, that as you go through this journey with these young couples, that it's blessing your marriage, that it's strengthening your marriage, and that it's given you great things to talk about, even if you've already established your own rhythms on these things a long time ago. I think looking at them again in new seasons of life is a wise and it's a good decision. I'm also praying for our young marrieds, and I'm praying that they feel blessed by your conversations, by your challenging them, by your investment in them as they seek to establish their own new lives and figure out what it means to be a couple, what it means to be married, and what it means to be a new family. I love you guys. I'm praying for you, and I'm excited to hear about how your young married groups go.